Mo mahjong, mo problems. Mo money, mo mahjong. All right, I need to stop. We should do this enchant world though before we start. Yeah. 3 mana rare that's either an enchantment or a creature that is neither black nor green. 3 mana white creature at a rare. Could be a legendary creature too. Could also be an enchantment. How about we go with attunement? Well, it is from Saga. 3 mana rare creature at red from Saga. Lava Runner? No, that's masks. Shit, I have too much Mercadian masks on the mind. 3 mana red rare Oracle's Attendant. Nope, that's also Nemesis. Fuck. This would, you know, if I'd slowed down, this would have been a 2-shotter. 3 mana white creature rare from Saga Block. 3 mana white creature that's a rare from Saga Block that happens to be a human. It's not Oracle's Attendant. Faith Healer costs 2. Saga from Saga. White creature in Saga. And it's not a legendary. Oh boy. White creature from Saga. I don't think it's Master Healer. I think that... Yeah, Master Healer is Destiny and 5-drop. Holy shit. How am I going to brick on this? Faith Healer is a 2-drop. Yeah, okay. Just double checking. It's not a cleric. It's a human what? White rare. I can't think of it. White rare from Saga that's a creature that's a human. Human soldier. I don't know if knowing if it's a soldier or a knight is going to make this any easier. 3 mana white rare from this era. Everything. God, this card must be bad. It's not a cleric too, so it's not the damage prevention one. I mean, I kind of need to, if I can figure out if it's a soldier or whatever. Oh, there's a soldier here. So it's not a soldier. Is it a knight? 3 mana white. It's not a knight. What the hell are you if you're not a knight, cleric, or soldier? 3 mana white creature. Oh, why the fuck can't I get it? I feel like I should know this card. I mean, it's a white rare. I'm not missing any like big cards, I don't believe. Is there just like a why can't I think about it? Why can't I Is it's not like a palace guard type card. I don't think there's anything from here that it would be. Standing troops is a common. Holy shit. I'm trying to figure this out. This is a tough one. Am I going to brick on this? How I should know this. I wonder if I'm just struggling because I can feel the pressure of trying to get this stream, you know, done sooner rather than later. Fuck, I'm going to be so mad about this. I can just tell. White. No, I can't get it. I can't think of it. I can't think of it. I can think of like Opal Guardians and cards. Yeah, it's all just a blur. I can't think of it. I think I might have to tap out. I mean, I'll give the tap out, but I could ask like a question. God, what the hell would it be? You're not a like, or I guess is Oswald an artificer? Because it's not an artificer. Three mana. Oh. God. I can't think of this at all. The fact that it's not a cleric is really bricking me. It's really bricking me. Is it just a human? How the hell do I find out? I'm trying to think of like just a human. Is Acacian Money Changer just a human? It is. It's just a human. And this is a rare? A 3 mana. Three mana rare. 3 mana rare. 3 mana rare. 3 mana rare. 3 mana human that's a rare. It's a human. Thinking about Urza's block. Waylay, Opal Guardian. I fucking can't do it. I can't think of it. I'm going to tap out. I mean, I'm probably going to be... It's probably going to kick my ass. Somebody give me a hint in chat. Give me a very... I'm looking at chat now. I'll take a very... Like, what is the first letter of the first word of the card? I guess is what I'm looking for. S. S. No, that doesn't help. I'm just going to look it up. S. Creature, white, rare, Urzas. I can't believe I had to tap out on a white rare. I don't know where I put that. Oh, I bookmarked it. That's what I did. No, I'm good. Thank you for now. Oh, it's Soul Sculptor. This one's not a... Oh, fuck. I know about Soul Sculptor. I thought this card was a cleric. Oh, that's... Oh, fuck, that's annoying. I thought this card was a cleric. I thought it had it updated. Like, I remember this not having... Like, it's just a human? I guess because it's a townsfolk. Oh, fuck. I thought it got updated with something else. God damn it. And I checked for... I mean, I forgot Intrepid Hero, but I knew... Well, I didn't forget Intrepid Hero, but I knew this was a soldier. I forgot that this... Ah, fuck. That's gonna... Ooh, that's gonna grind my gears. What's the other... There's another sculptor, too. Does anybody remember the name of the other sculptor where it's like a white commander card where it makes a copy of a thing, except it can't attack or block? Copy, can't attack. Yeah, it's from like I think it's from the Atla Palani deck. It's a white creature. Can't attack. Is it Doomed Artisan? I feel like it's Doomed Artisan. It is. Okay, so hold on. This is why I checked for Artificer. It's because this is the card that I was thinking of. Like, sorry, not thinking of. But this is a card where I was like, Soul Sculptor popped up in my head. But I'm like, well, I checked for Artificer. And it's not. And they're doing the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. I I feel like I got. I feel like I got my pockets run here. All right. Someone's something, and it's a creature. When blanks enters the battlefield, blank. Is it Vraska's thing? It's not Vraska's thing. It looks like it's a zombie. Something's blank as a zombie. Something's blank. Is it? It's not Geralf's messenger, because there's no one dying. Also, it's only 1 pip. Oh, this might make it a little bit easier. Is it Cauldron? No, it's not Cauldron Familiar. When blank enters the battlefield, when blank enters the battlefield or dies, something EE? Wait, EE. Three. Oh, Stitcher's Supplier. Right. I forget this card's a zombie sometimes. All right. Cool. Okay, let's get to the actual meat and potatoes of this stream. Set review. Modern Horizon 3. This is going to be the last set review of this set. There may be some other cards that pop out in from the Commander product or whatever. I'm not going to talk about all the Commander cards. I just want to talk about the ones that I believe are going to be playable in Canadian Highlander. And then obviously I'm going to be talking about the cards in this set that are playable in Canlander and Gladiator, and, you know, if they're cool and for Cube and all that kind of stuff. If you haven't seen part 1 and part 2, they're available on the YouTube channel, which I'm going to link in chat. You can, the Twitch VOD might still be up, but it's all available there. Let's jump right into it. Let's get going, because I only have so much time. Angel of the Ruins. 5 white for a 5/7 artifact creature angel with flying. When Angel of the Ruins enters the battlefield, you exile up to 2 target artifacts or enchantments, and it has plane cycling for 2 generic. This card is a reprint from the Strixhaven Commander decks, getting added to Arena and Gladiator for the first time. This is a pretty reasonable card to play in like a big white deck or like a reanimation or an artifact deck. Cost of inclusion's pretty low because of obviously plane cycling. Typically artifact decks have a way of getting back their artifacts as well. It just converts it puts itself into the graveyard. Is pretty cool to bring back. There are obviously matchups where this card is just like an absolute brick shithouse, just blowing up their 2 best things and then leaving you with a 5/7 flyer. That's pretty hot. I like it when your big idiots put themselves into the graveyard, especially when they're utility big idiots. And 7 is not, you know, it's not nothing, but also the like big white deck or the white X like ramp decks could get away with playing this card. Who knows? Maybe even blue-white control could play it. I mean, this is like, maybe there are decks that are probably going to want, you know, going to look to play this all the time because they care about getting back Angel of Ruins or getting back, they care about getting back a big utility creature or putting an artifact in the graveyard or whatever. But then there are also some decks that might be like, you know, these artifact or enchantment decks are pretty good. Like, I'm just dying to like Nettle Cysts and Kappa Cannoneers and whatnot. This is not that the greatest answer to cap a cannoneer. But, you know, there are very scary artifacts that are in our format and also popping up with Modern Horizons 3. So there's some added utility for more traditional archetypes playing this card, which is kind of cool. Distinguished Conjurer. This is a reprint coming to Arena for the first time. 1 and a white for a 1/2 human wizard. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. And you can pay 4 and a white to tap it, exile another target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. This is another new Soul Warden. So we got 2 new Soul Wardens in this set. This one is 2 mana, but that ability is like absurd. Like late game, this thing is just going to grind your opponent into the dirt. And that's pretty slick. It's a card that is not the most exciting thing in the world, but if you are looking for more Soul Warden effects, this is a totally reasonable one to include. And especially because, well, those decks can have difficulties closing the game. And this doesn't exactly say, hey, now you can start being the aggressor, or now you can start winning the game, but it really like sinks its fangs into the opponent. Like once you start doing this with your like Skyclave Apparition or Solitude, which again, we're getting Solitude, Recruiter of the Guard, like this is when it gets out of control. Talked about all of these. This card's kind of funny. Guardian of the Forgotten, 3 and a white for a 4/4 elephant warrior with vigilance. And whenever a modified creature you control dies, manifest the top card of your library. I don't think this card's going to be playable, but it's one of those cards where you read it and you go like, oh, okay, so you just like infinite people. Like this card, there are so many ways that this card can go infinite with like a sack outlet and just any way of putting counters on creatures. There are a bunch of cards that say like, hey, if a creature comes into play, you put a counter on it. Or like free equipment, like a Lightning Greaves or a Shuko or whatever. Yeah, Great Hen, sure. You just like, your creature comes into play, gets a counter, you sack it, this triggers, you then manifest the top card as a creature, which then puts a counter on it, and yada, yada, yada. So it's a Magic card that's pretty funny. I don't think it's going to show up in Canadian Highlander or Gladiator just because it's expensive and requires a couple, probably too many moving pieces. But it's worth mentioning to get into your mind that this exists, because, I mean, it's pretty hot when you have an infinite that also just like decks you. I'm pretty into that. Pretty into that. I don't think this Slith is playable, but I do like Sliths. I think it's pretty cool. Oh, this card is unbelievable. Indebted Spirit. 1 white for a 1/1 enchantment creature, Spirit. With Bestow for 2 and a white. It has Afterlife 1. An enchanted creature gets +1/+1. It has Afterlife 1. So the floor of this card is that it's a 1 mana 1/1 that when it dies, it replaces itself, and the replacement is an upgrade, right? It's like Doom Traveler. The Bestow ability is kind of cracked, because with a sack outlet, if you have a sack outlet and like 1 creature, right? We enchant it with Indebted Spirit. The enchanted creature now has Afterlife 1. You then sacrifice the enchanted creature to make a token, right? We've made 1 token. Then, because this was bestowed onto the sacrificed creature, this falls off of it and becomes a 1/1 again. So then we sacrifice this, which then makes a token. So we've now sacrificed the original enchanted creature. We've sacrificed the Indebted Spirit.
Abusing magic.
Yeah.
And then we now have 2 more tokens to sacrifice. So this plus another creature represents 4 sacrifice triggers. This by itself, like, just is going to be 3 bodies. I don't know how relevant the +1/+1 is going to be, but, you know, it's decks like Aristocrats that are going to be killing with this kind of card. You know, they like the little pecks of damage, right? Often it's just like small little cuts over the course of a game until it's a very big dump of damage. And so, yeah, maybe that'll show up. It doesn't need to. You don't need +1/+1 on this thing. It's just a card that you're already playing like every version of, except this is better than basically every other version, or it's just like similar enough to Doom Traveler. Then it has flexibility with this that is also just synergizing with your thing. That's great. How does this work with Luris? It works the way you want it to. Bestow does not, I believe Bestow isn't going to change the cost of the card. Whereas like, you know, it's not like an Expel or whatever, where you can only Walking Ballista for 1 off of a Luris. You can go bigger. And then, yeah, relevant enough, it's an enchantment creature. Like, that might just be enough for this card to show up in, like, the Bestow Beatdown Sanctum Stompy style decks. This is just this is a magic card. Jolted Awake. I love this Animorphs artwork. This is wild. 1 white for a sorcery. You choose up to 1 target creature or artifact or creature in your graveyard. Then you get 2 energy. Then you may pay an amount of energy equal to that card's mana value, and if you do, return it from your graveyard to play. Then it has cycling for 2. This is a very weird magic card. It's kind of like an Unearth style card, but obviously there's this energy tacked onto it, and it can return artifacts. Cycling 2 is nice because if this card's not doing what you need, then you can cash it in. The downside of this card is that the 3-drop is like the key slot, right? Like Helping Hand and Unearth, being able to return like the Flicker Wisp cards, Recruiter of the Guard, returning like Eternal Witness, that kind of stuff is huge. That's a big part of the play pattern with Unearth and Helping Hand and these cheap kind of cards. This one, however, can return artifacts. And while there are some pretty cool artifacts at like 4 and up, the fact that this card can return a Time Vault, Voltaic Keys, I mean, it can return Black Lotus for what it's worth, can return Sensei's Top, Thopter Foundry. Like, I think this card might see a little play in Canadian Highlander, in Degenerate artifact decks, like, or in like the like A+B artifact combo. Can return both parts of Grindstone and Painter Servant if that's, you know, if you're feeling nasty. It's got some play to it. And then again, just cycle, just cash it in. It's not doing anything, cash it in. Doesn't return the thing tapped, which is nice. Yeah, this card's pretty all right. Jesus. Kiefer's running the blender and it just really caught me off guard there. Mustard of the Departed. 2 and a white for an enchantment. When it ETBs, you make a 1/1 flying spirit token that has Morbid at the beginning of your end step. If a creature died this turn, populate. Probably too slow to see play. It's kind of neat that it can just like continuously chain out creatures. Very similar to like Hidden Stockpile in this regard. Unfortunately, I feel like false swipe gaming sometimes when I'm talking about cards. Unfortunately, this Morbid only triggers on your end step. There's another Morbid card that comes to mind, which is Death Reap Ritual, which triggers at the beginning of each end step, which is pretty cool and good. Triggering only on your end step, I don't think gives this enough value to make it Gladiator playable. But you know, if you can populate bigger tokens, then that's cool. Like this card, I'm sure this card is going to see plenty of Commander play or whatever. But we just want our little idiots to become, you know, to stay little idiots. And we just want more little idiots. Again, we're pretty like the full preview is out. The full preview is out, but a lot of the cards we're getting are more just like role-playing cards or whatever. Proud Pack Rhino, 2 and a white for a 3/3 Rhino. When it ETBs, you choose 1. You put a shield counter on target permanent or proliferate. This one is kind of weird. I feel like part of my brain is still stuck in the year like 2012, where I just like look at this card, I'm like, whoa, this could be fine. It's got Ancient Tomb mana, like Proliferate doesn't show up much, but who cares? I have a 3 mana 3/3 that like is going to brick the first point of damage, or I can protect my other card. And that's just like not exciting enough. But this card is just, hey, this is a card that would have been like very playable in old Gladiator, but I don't think it's going to show up anywhere here, unfortunately. But very, very cute artwork and very cool card. This knight is not good. We talked about this. We talked about this. This is too big. Talked about that. Don't care about this card. Great. That's white. On to blue. On to blue. I mean, we could talk about this card. Aether Spike. 1 and a blue for an instant. Choose target spell. You get 2 energy. Then you may pay any amount of energy. Counter that spell unless its controller paid 1 for each energy paid this way. So I've talked about energy a couple of times, and while I don't think you can have an energy deck, I think that there are enough energy cards that have control elements that will find themselves in the same deck, like in a blue-red deck or a Jeskai deck, where you could play these kind of cards. Like, Quench is not the worst thing in the world to play. It gets a little awkward later, but if you have your like Galvanic Discharge, that Wrath effect, you know, I probably wouldn't recommend Harness Lightning, but maybe you're on Harness Lightning. Like, I'm not saying you should do these things, but this card is a bit better than it looks. It's closer to the like Galvanic Discharge kind of set than some of the other ones. And very funny. I imagine this card might show up in some of the 60 card formats, because why would you give the why do you do this? You don't give a card an old bordered frame unless you think it might show up in some way, shape, or form. Like, if you don't do this if you think that this card is just going to be like limited, like trash or whatever, right? So yeah, I kind of like it. I'm not going to talk about Bespoke Battle Wagon because it's not particularly good, but very great artwork, very nice artwork. If you get a chance, look at this artwork in very, very up close, if you can. Don't think that one's very good. This one's also not very good. Again, we just got a whole bunch of commons and spells and whatnot. This one's kind of interesting. I don't even think we talked about this on North 100 because it's a little, it's very specific. So Hydroelectric Specimen, 2 and a blue for a 1/3 weird with flash. When Hydroelectric Specimen enters the battlefield, you may change the target of an instant or sorcery spell with a single target to Hydroelectric Specimen. And then the backside is a land, the Hydroelectric Laboratory. This one's kind of mid, like in the line of these free-to-play double-face modal cards that are just kind of cracked. This is one of those ones where you're like, oh, well, the other cards all have abilities or text where you're like, I would love to be able to include this in my deck, but I don't want them to take up a slot. Where this one is like, do I even want this in my deck? Like, I think the answer is no. There are spots where you can save something from a lightning bolt, or you could redirect your swords to plowshares, but or you just flash out a 1/4 blocker. But I'm not that convinced that this card is worth a slot unless you are like including it as a land in like a 40+ land blue X control deck, right? Like, if this card is out of all these new double face modal cards, this card is closer to Skycleave Cleric. Where'd you go? This card is closer to Skycleave Cleric, the 2 mana 1/3 that gains 2 life on ETB. That's a white land, comes into play tapped, which saw some play in blue white. Not as much anymore as the format has sped up. Cards have gotten better. Removal's gotten better. Red Deck Wins is not as popular as it used to be. But it's closer to Skyclave than the other double face modal cards. Womp womp. Have I talked about this card? We made a big hoot about this card on North 100, but I can't remember if I talked about this. I don't think so. Hopeender Kodal. 2 and a blue for a 2/2 Eldrazi Snake with Devoid Flash. When you cast this spell, counter target spell unless an opponent controls unless they pay 1, and it has flying. This is technically an uncounterable Force Spike effect, which is somewhat messed up. The issue that pops up is uncounterable Force Spike is not as relevant as obviously just like a hard counter, but also because the uncounterable aspect becomes important if they have, or sorry, the uncounterable aspect of this card is important only if you're worried about counter magic. And so if they have counter magic, they probably have the 1 to pay for this Force Spike. So instead, this is something that it's weird because like its power level and its body is more in line with what Gladiator has to offer, but it's at its best in a format with cards like Force of Will, Force of Negation, Daze, and all that crap, where people are tapping out and then having a they will have actual counter magic to maybe like try to fight over resolving a very important piece. That said, this being a 3-mana 2/2 that just ETBs and counters a spell is annoying. Like that is a play pattern that is kind of fucked up. It's easy to cast, evasive body. That's kind of neat. Yeah, I think this card will see play in both Gladiator and Canadian Highlander. It'll be interesting to see where it settles between the two, but there are some play patterns with this card that is just like incredibly annoying. Luke, welcome back for the 10th month. I hope you got your brain cell back from Surge. Oh, right. The North 100 showdown. I think I found it. Don't worry. It's interesting. Usually when Surge is close by, I start losing brain power just due to proximity or whatever. Right. This intro was unhinged. I remember this being a very unhinged intro for the new North 100 showdown, a Canadian Highlander throwdown. The very same, Sibwow. The very same. We talked about these cards. I don't really give a hoot about this card. Shrieking Drake. This is a reprint from Visions. 1 mana, 1/1 flying Drake. When it ETBs, return a creature you control to its owner's hand. This card is kind of hilarious. It used to be a piece in Alurin strategies. Like it would show up occasionally in Alurin decks of old. Why the fuck is it here? Like, I believe it's here because of the energy Alurin and, you know, maybe setting up some wild infinites. Yeah, I can't believe they kept the original art on this. This rules. This is some Visions art. This is some Mirage Block art right here. Yeah, I don't think this card is going to see play unless there is some way of cheating out. Like if somebody tries to build the Alurin deck or some like Omniscience kind of combo deck that uses Recruiter the Guard loops, then like sure, maybe this will pop up. Very weird that it's here. It's just so very weird that it's here. It's great though. It's very cool. You're not playing this as like a cheap flying threat. You're playing this because it's a creature that returns a creature you control to your hand for only 1 mana or 1 energy if you're nasty. Ampharos, welcome back for the 18th month. How you doing? How you been? Glad to have you, and may I say good to see you. Thank you so much for all the support. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, this is a big 1/1. What the hell? Because assume like there are some like oh, this is the guy in the background, so if he comes up close to the Drake, he's going to be the same size, right? Or much larger, I guess. But these are just presumably human skulls. So like its claws, I guess, are larger than multiple human skulls. This is very confusing. How big is this guy in the background? That's what I want to know. We've already talked about all these cards. Did I talk about Ugin's Binding? This card's very funny to me. 2 and a blue for an instant with Devoid. It has return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. And whenever you cast a colorless spell with mana value 7 or greater, you may exile Ugin's Binding from your graveyard. When you do, return each non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. So this is 3 mana bounce a thing, which is not great. It's whatever. But then if you meet the like Kozilek's return requirement, then you just get to Cyclonic Rift for free, which is kind of fucked up.
Abusing magic.
Like,
How dare you?
I think the applications of this card are going to be a bit narrow for Gladiator, but it is pretty hilarious to imagine playing this card in like battle bots in Canlander. Like, I'm going to play this card in battle bots where I'm on like Mirror Enforcer, Sojourner's Companion, you know, all of those friendos. Being able to just like, you know, I'll bounce this one thing and then later on I'm going to cast a Mirror Enforcer and then upend your entire board and smash face with my big donkeys. And that's kind of hot. Like, maybe you could play this in the Eldrazi deck too, like the blue-green Eldrazi deck, the like channel Eldrazi for Canlander. But it is expensive. Like, this is an expensive cost for just this effect. But yeah, this is wild. This is wild. This is kind of messed up. I mean, this probably will see Gladiator play too, right? Like, we have our fair share of colorless cards that, well, cost a lot, right? We have access to, you know, Ugin. I mean, it's funny because some of the cards that I'm thinking about do not really want you to bounce everything, but it's a May, so you don't even have to do it if you don't want to. But like Ugin, Portal to Phyrexia, Cityscape Leveler. Like, I'll play this card in big blue. Maybe the artifact decks could play this, like the bigger mana artifact decks. It kind of stinks that you can't return your own permanent, so like you lose some utility from like maybe saving something or rebuying an ETB. But hard to complain with a free Cyclonic Rift, you know? That guy Steve, welcome back for the 4th month. How you doing? How you been? Thank you so much for the support. Glad to have you. May I say good to see you. God, again, Unfathomable Truths. 4 and a blue for an instant with Devoid. Draw 3 cards and then you make a spawn token at instant speed. God, early Gladiator would have killed for this card. And like, look at this incredible Drew Tucker artwork. Holy shit. This rules. This card rules. Not playable, but love it. Love to see it. All right, on to black. Accursed Marauder, 1 and a black for a 2/1 zombie warrior. When it ETBs, each player sacrifices a non-token creature. Bit of a glow up for Fleshbag Marauder. Non-token's kind of an interesting thing because on one hand, them sacrificing like a plant token or a spawn token or a servo off of this card does not feel good. On the other hand, not being able to hit a Merit Lodge or hit a construct token or a germ token on like a Cauldron Complete is pretty bad. Like, that does not feel very good. Also, you like decks that would want this kind of effect typically are also decks that can generate tokens, and so you not being able to sack a token is a little awkward. It is a zombie and it costs 2 mana, and that's why I'm talking about it, because obviously zombies will just take more 2-drops, especially 2-drops that can have some kind of, you know, a seemingly positive ability attached to it, especially because it's the mana cost to bring it off Luris and all that. But I don't think, I just think this card's a little too awkward. Like, this just, it seems like it's templated in a way that's beneficial, but then in practice, where you are playing this kind of card and like what you're actually worried about killing that you wouldn't normally be able to kill just happen to be tokens. It's very unfortunate. It's an unfortunate collection of words, I guess is what I'm trying to say. No, I misclicked. Arcbound Condor. 2 black for a 0/0 flying modular 3 artifact creature bird. Whenever another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, target creature and opponent controls get -1/-1 until end of turn. So this is genuinely a messed up line of text. Unfortunately, it's on a double black pipped card in artifacts. Kind of awkward to set up, a bit expensive, a bit vulnerable. But this artwork is gorgeous. This is really cool. This is really cool artwork. But this ability is not to be undervalued. Like, somebody, Chatterhead is saying, oh my god, it's bad Doomwig Giant. And like, it is, in that, you know, Doomwig Giant obviously hits everything. Oh, there is a PPR. Yeah, there's a PPR that, tomorrow. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I had to pause for a second. But yeah, it's tomorrow 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Need to update that PPR command. It's so much easier to make more artifacts than making enchantments, especially with tokens, right? This doesn't say non-token artifact. Treasure tokens, blood tokens, food tokens, servos, thopters. Like, this card can just repeatedly kill things. But the stat line and the mana cost is a little too awkward, I think, unfortunately. But it's closer than you think. Closer than you think. I do not give a hoot about this magic card. Don't give a hoot about that. They made another Slith. There are so many black artifact cards that like are a little awkward. It's a little awkward here. This card's kind of funny. It's a bit too expensive. Fetid Gargantua, 4 and a black for a 4/4 horror with adapt 2 for 2 and a black. Whenever one or more counters are put on Fetid Gargantua, you may draw 2 cards, and if you do, you lose 2 life. So this is a genuinely fucked up ability. Like, this is a 5 mana 4/4, which is obviously tough to get out. It's expensive. But this screams like go infinite with me, right? Like, there are cards that say when you draw a card, put a counter on something. There are cards that say, you know, discard a card, put a counter on something. And so this card could go infinite very easily. It's just expensive and requires a bit too many pieces, I think, to see any kind of relevant play outside of a commander format. Incredible artwork, though. Just absolutely incredible artwork. Really knocking it out of the park with this set. I talked about Gravedigger. Yeah, we already talked about Gravedigger. We talked about all these cards. Nadir's Nightblade's a reprint, but this card's not very good. Ooh, this card's kind of neat. Refurbished Familiar. 3 and a black for a 2/1 zombie rat with affinity for artifacts and flying. When Refurbished Familiar enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. For each opponent who can't, you draw a card. So this card is genuinely quite good. It is black. It's a black artifact card, which makes it a little awkward, but a single pip and a low cost means that, like, if you are in a affinity artifact creature kind of deck, like a grindy or artifact deck, this card is going to be like, this card is totally fine, right? Like, 1 mana for a 2/1 flyer that they have to discard a card is great. 2 mana for a 2/1 flyer they discard a card is pretty good too. Yeah, it's just, I'm not sold on the black artifacts yet, because typically the artifact decks that play black tend to not be aggressive, and also the black is like a very low cost. Like, it's just not that, or sorry, very what's the word? It's more of a splash than anything. So I'm not too convinced on this kind of thing. Yeah, the flavor text I think is kind of nice. In a way, I don't know. When our beloved pet died, the artificer turned to necromancy. And obviously this rat is now back that has a bunch of mechanical parts to it. On one hand, just let it die. This could be selfish if this is painful or whatever, but who knows? We don't know the magic or the mechanics of all this. If the rat's not suffering and having a good time, great. But also, you know, don't be selfish when it comes to your pets. We talked about all these cards, not this one. Shill Gengar. Yeah, I'll Shill Gengar. Shill Gengar, Sire of Famine. 3 black for a 6/6 Elder Demon. It's a legend with flying, and sacrifice another creature. create a blood token. If you sacrificed an angel this way, create a number of blood tokens equal to its toughness instead. And then 3 hybrid Orzhov, sacrifice 6 blood tokens, return each creature card from your graveyard to play with a finality counter on it. Those creatures are vamps in addition to the other types. This card's not very good. Cool commander card. I mean, I wanted to talk about it because it's new, it's big, it has a scary stat line. It's got profile art. They know people are going to want to play this, but they're going to want to play it for commander. Yeah, this card's not very good. Not because of the blood tokens or anything. It's just, it's too particular if you want to make a lot of blood tokens. It just is kind of a big donkey here. And then this ability is just not happening. Like, it's just so rare. Like, it's so hard for this to happen in like a 1v1 match where your opponent's trying to kill you. It's just, yeah, not happening. Not happening. RKF art, not playable though. All right, on to red. God, this is pretty. Oh, here we go. This one's good. Fanged Flames. 1 in a red for a sorcery with Devoid. Fanged Flames deals 4 damage to a creature or planeswalker. If that creature or planeswalker would die this turn, exile it instead. This is just another 2 mana, deal 4 to a creature. This is just Obliterating Bolt, except it has Devoid. So Devoid on these cards has it's a bit of a double-edged sword where you can get around protection from, but our format doesn't really have Mom. We have Giver of Runes, and Giver of Runes can already give protection from colorless. But, you know, protection from a color can pop up with cards like Brave the Elements or cards like Sword of Fire and Ice. And who knows? We'll probably pop up as Arena gets access to more Mother of Runes style cards, right? The downside is that we now have Fury. And there may be some other cards that care about casting red spells or whatever. So, you know, niche corner scenarios where it's relevant to remember that this card is not a red card. It just has a red cost. But yeah, nice little utility pickup. They brought back Fledgling Dragon. Hell yeah. This card's not very good. But this is, if you've ever wanted to know... I mean, I guess now people call it like mono red prison or mono red stompy or whatever. This is one of the reasons why it was called Dragon Stompy back in the day. I wonder if I could, like, it's still, I'm looking at, I was trying to see if I could find a list for people, or Moon Stompy. But this is one of the dragons and why it was called Dragon Stompy. Like, it was Fledgling Dragon and Rakdos Pit Dragon, and you played Moons. Hell yeah. Like, this card saw some legacy play, believe it or not. This was a rare. I opened this card from a pack of Judgment as my rare, and I was excited. This was dope. Some of you haven't cast Furnace Whelp, and it really shows. I talked about Ghostfire Slice, right? I talked about this card. I believe I talked about this card. Even if I didn't, pretty straightforward. 4 damage for 3 mana, instant speed, gets around protection from colors or whatever. Not bad. Not that bad, just like the floor. Not a card you necessarily want to include in your deck, but not that bad. Char without the burn to you. Then if your opponent has a multicolored permanent, which, have you played Magic the Gathering recently? Like, this is likely to happen to make this 1 mana deal 4. Pretty good. Inventor's Axe. 1 red for an artifact equipment with flash. When Inventor's Axe enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy. When it enters the battfield, you attach a target creature you control. An equipped creature gets +2/+0, and you can pay 2 energy to equip it to something else. Is it Dueling Rapier? Which is kind of like this? Yeah, Dueling Rapier is very similar to this. 1 red, flash, +2/+0, and has a big equip cost that is basically not happening. I'm super low on Bone Splitters. I just don't think they're particularly good. But if you are a deck that is running a bunch of Bone Splitters, you may want to consider running this. That said, I was poo-pooing this card on North 100 Showdown. Like, I don't think this card is Canlander or North 100 normal. I don't think this card is Canlander playable at all. I also just don't really think that this card is Gladiator playable, because you have like the strength of Bone Splitter. If I'm going to give Bone Splitter some credit, as a absolute lover of Bone Splitters, included 4 of those bad boys in my old decks back in the day, in Standard, or I guess Type 2 at the time. The strength of Bone Splitter is that every creature you draw is going to be a threat, right? Basically, every creature you draw is going to have 3 power. And this just stops unless you have additional energy. So even if you get 1 free equip and then another equip over here that is kind of free because it's a resource that you're probably not going to have that much of, it's just, that's not the scary part, right? The scary part is when they've killed the first 2 things and then the third one shows up, and every subsequent creature that arrives is going to be somewhat of a threat, you know? And this doesn't really provide that. Talked about all these. Meteoric Mace is pretty funny. It's just a 6-mana cascade equipment. There's probably going to be like a Lelia Brawl deck, huh? That is just like a bunch of Discover and Cascade cards in Lelia. That's kind of funny. Molten Gatekeeper, 2 and a red for a 2/3 artifact creature golem. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals 1 damage to each opponent, and then it has Unearth for a red. This type of effect is not that great in 1v1. It's like the Unearth makes this kind of hot. Its 3 mana upfront cost is kind of neat. I think this card will see play in some Aristocrats decks. Probably not in the 3-color ones, but if you're playing like red, black, this can have some play. This could have some play in like a Dredge deck too. Like a 1 mana Unearth card that can then, you know, you just unearth this and then you get to reanimate or bring back a bunch of zombies, like, you know, Bridge from Below stuff, or like reanimating like a Zoni if you don't want to play Lotleth Giant and stuff. Yeah, Insidious Roots this card pops off with. Like, it's a card where there are very specific niche archetypes that can take advantage of what this card is doing, which is kind of neat. But also, what are you cutting for this card? Like, you may have to make some considerations about like, well, is this really an upgrade for this, or does this just look cool as hell when I like pop off with this, you know? We talked about this card. Why? I don't understand this card. There must be... Why does this have a full art? I feel like this was a card that they wanted for Mom and they didn't put, like, this feels like a card that they had in like the Mom Commander deck and they had to get rid of it and save it for here. Like, it does not feel like a card that was made for this set. I know that there's Lelia and like you could do something with this in 60 card, but this card is like kind of baffling to me. I guess I can talk about this. Phyrexian Ironworks. 2 and a red for an artifact. Whenever you attack, you get an energy, and then tap, pay 3 energy, make a 3/3 golem creature token, but only as a sorcery. Whenever you attack is just if you make an attack. It's not for each creature you attack with. This card doesn't do anything. It's too slow. Way too slow. This is a limited card. That's it. Pinnacle Monk. 3 red for a 2/2 prowess Djinn Monk. With when Pinnacle Monk enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. Then the flip side is a land. There's a low cost of inclusion with all these cards. This one happens to be a bit more expensive than some of the other cards that are kind of running around here. But it is kind of funny that you can just combo kill with this. Like, this as a Magic card is kind of kind of above everything else that we've seen, right? Like you have like an Archaeomancer with prowess that if you draw it early, it's just a land. Like that's kind of hot. I'm going to be playing this in some like I might even try this in like the Hot Bant Seeker Walk deck because it's expensive and double red is not ideal, but it's a land. And it still can be found off Recruiter of the Guard and Imperial Recruiter for what it's worth. So it's another tutorable land. That gives it a lot of oomph. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe even Blue Moon could play this. It's awkward looking at some of these cards for the control decks because obviously paying 3 life is less than ideal. But this is something. Like this is Time Warp combo, right? Like your land that also just goes infinite with Ephemerate and Time Warp and whatnot. It's kind of hot. We talked about all these. I talked about this. This card I don't want to talk about because it's not good. This card is not good. This one's kind of hot. Siege Smash. 1 in a red for an instant with split second. Choose one. Destroy target artifact or target creature gets +3/+2 and trample until end of turn. I like this card as a cheap utility spell. Split second on pump spells, great. Just gets around the burn. Just does a shitload of damage, kills them dead. Split second on destroying an artifact, not as relevant in Gladiator than in Canlander, but being able to destroy an Umezawa's Jite or a Paradox Engine or a Thopter Foundry is a huge one. Like being able to blow up these artifacts that are really pesky, Shadow Spear, right? Get rid of these artifacts that are going to really stymie your game plan here. And doing so before they can even cash in just a little bit is pretty appealing. And yeah, just trample, 3 power plus trample on a pump spell is already quite good, right? Like Predator's Strike, kinda. That also just has uncounterable shatter. Like, hell yeah. This card rules. Talked about these. This card's not good. Talked about these. We talked about all of these. We talked about all of these. Onto green. Oh, somebody got a glow up. Annoyed Altasaur. This is a reprint from Commander Legends. 5 green for a 6/5 reach trample cascade. I'm probably going to play this in like a big green deck. Sure, it might cast a Llanowar Elf from, time to time, but like, what if it didn't? What if it cast? I'm actually okay with that. Like 7 mana giant donkey that like gets another accelerant out. Sure, why not? Who gives a shit? But when this card high rolls, does it high roll? Just casting a prime time or like a planeswalker off this card, Rishkar's Expertise, some big donkey card. That's pretty hot. I'm a big fan of that. Holy smokes.
Gives me conniptions.
What the hell? Joss Tech just gifted 10 subs to the community. Holy smokes. Those subs going to the Elrad, Echo and Mog, Baskwalla, Non-Binary Keegan, Unkenny, Yak Bop, Just Fits, Avisa Zerept, Fair Goth, and Shadow Knot. That's incredibly generous of you. Thank you so much. Ye and Haw. Indeed. That's very kind of you. Reminder, if you did happen to win a sub during this gifting, be sure to thank Joss Tech.
Gives me conniptions.
Be sure to thank Joss Tech. I kind of want to see if I feel like branching evolution is legal. This card was in like Jumpstart Historic Horizons, right? Yeah, okay.
Gives me conniptions.
Oh, so many conniptions. So little finding playable Magic cards that we haven't talked about. We've talked about all these. I don't think Reprocess or Repurposer is that great.
Gives me conniptions.
Oh. I mean, this card does a lot. Gift of the Viper does a lot.
Another one. Gives me conniptions.
Gift of the Viper does a lot. 1 mana instant, put a 1/1 counter, a reach counter, and a death touch counter on target creature and untap it.
Another one.
Like, I don't think this card's playable.
Gives me conniptions.
But that is so many. That's 4 different things. 1 mana deal 4 different things at the same time. That's kind of cracked.
Ah, another one.
I mean, for Canlander,
Gives me conniptions.
we have Legolas's elvish eyes or whatever, quick reflexes,
Ah, another one.
and that has a whole bunch of added utility. I don't
Gives
think
me
this is
conniptions.
playable, but that's so many words. Holy shit! Why do you put this many words on a single green common? Yeah, Death Touch is kind of nice in a world with a bunch of tramplers. Yeah, so many conniptions. Yeah, kind of wild. Horrific Assault. 1 green sorcery. Target creature you control punches a creature or a planeswalker you don't control. And you gain 3 life if you have an Eldrazi. We just got this at MKM, right? Like, we just received this one from MKM. I forget what it was called. Let's see. That. Why is this so zoomed in? Why is that at 160%? My eyes are not dim. I still can see. Hard-hitting question. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power. Target creature or planeswalker you control. Technically, this is better than hard-hitting question, and also the artwork is cooler because it's Justine Jones. So yeah, I mean, you got a bunch of stuff that you can use if you want this kind of effect. Technically, this is going to be better. There may be cases where you do have an Eldrazi and you're going to gain the 3 life. Cool. Just a little minor upgrade here. Ooh. Lion Umbra. Green for an aura enchantment. Enchant modified creature. So this is going to enchant only a creature that is already enchanted or has counters or equipment on it. Enchanted creature gets +3/+3 and has vigilance and reach, and it has Umbra armor, which is the updated version of Totem armor. So this card is a callback to Daybreak Coronet of sorts, where that is an aura that requires the enchanted creature to have another aura attached to it. Daybreak Coronet is just game ending. Like, it's just brutal. It's so easy to kill people with this. First strike, vigilance, lifelink, game over. You're not getting anywhere. But this having Umbra armor is pretty dope. Like, this is nice. This is protection from getting blown out. The downside is that it still gets removed if you get rid of any of the other modifications on the card. Like if you blow the same play pattern with Daybreak Coronet of like, oh, I just blow up your ethereal armor and then the coronet falls off. And also obviously exile effects kind of circumvent the Umbra armor. But this is kind of cool. Oh, it counts as modified. What? Really? Enchant modified creature. There's no way that's how that works, right? Why would you have this? No, that's not how that works. You can only have it enchanted to... There's no way, right? If it's if it's attached, it is modified. This being modified is makes it attached. But like, you can't target this like... Yes, sorry. Okay. Oh, I see what you mean. Yes, it satisfies the Daybreak Coronet. Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's good. You can only target an already enchanted creature, but it doesn't run into the Daybreak Coronet issue. Cool. Very weird. Very weird, but very cool. Yeah, you can take a guess as to where you're going to play this card. Go on, take a guess. Take a guess. This card is shockingly good, and I feel like it flies under the radar. Malevolent Rumble. 1 and a green for a sorcery. You reveal the top 4 cards of your library, and you can put a permanent card from among them into your hand. The rest go into the graveyard, and then you make a 0/1 Eldrazi spawn token. So this is kind of like a mulch or grizzly salvage style card, except it hits any permanent and it makes a spawn token. So I have a soft spot for any of these cards where it's like, oh, you have to make a token because if this was on a creature, it would be busted because it would just loop with other versions of itself. But yeah, like the fact that you can just play this, make a blocker, potentially accelerate your mana to whatever permanent you've got, fill your graveyard. Like, I think this card will see some play in Dredge. Maybe not in Canlander, but like if you're a deck that gives a shit about using your graveyard quite a bit, this card's great. This card is great. And it's probably an absurd card for some commander decks too, for what it's worth. Yeah, this card's great. Very good. Very powerful. Isn't this better than Satyr Wayfinder? No, well, it's different, right? It being Satyr Wayfinder being a creature is pretty huge. That's pretty big. Oh, this is cute. 2 mana, 1/2, Death Toucher, tapped add a colorless, tapped add 1 mana of any color. Lets you cast your Eldrazi. Talked about all these cards. There's this Propagator Drone. I'm not super into this card. We talked about all these cards. This happens to be a 5 mana 7/5. I don't think it's very good. Talked about all these cards. Great. We're on to gold. On to gold. I think we've probably already talked about these cards. Ignore me. Ooh. Cursed Wombat. Black and a green for a 2/3 Nightmare Wombat. 2 black and a green. Adapt 2. Permanents you control have, whenever 1 or more 1/1 counters are put on this permanent, put an additional 1/1 counter on this permanent. This ability triggers only each turn. Or only once each turn. That part's a little bit of a pisser. It's a little bit of a pisser, but it is nice to have some redundancy in terms of like Winding Constrictors type cards. You do need to have a nice balance of cards that like alter or boost your counter placement with cards that actually have counters. Like if you have too many like Cursed Wombats and Conclave Mentors, then you might run into an issue where you just don't like, how are you putting the counters on these cards and they're not doing anything? This at least has a mana sink where you can start loading it up, right? Like this is expensive, but 2 mana for the 2/3 that is going to help out your Luminarch Aspirant and whatnot that can then turn itself into a 5/6 is pretty great. It's pretty great. The popcorn loving rabid wombat. Yeah, this is like a what is it? A binturong? Binturong? Shout out to my Kratz Creatures enjoyers. The binturong. Look at it. This thing smells like popcorn, right? Like that's the whole thing. Researchers have ferreted out why the binturong, a threatened Southeast Asian mammal known as the bear cat, smells like popcorn. Yeah, this thing smells like popcorn. It's very cute. This one's kind of funny. Cyclops Superconductor. 1 blue and a red for a 2/2 Cyclops Wizard with prowess. And when it ETBs, you get 3 energy. And when it dies, you may pay 3 energy. When you do, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. This is certainly a 3 mana prowess creature, which typically you want them to be 1-drops and 2-drops. But this gets a couple of added pluses to it. One, it's a wizard, genuinely relevant if we're playing stuff like Adelays or Wizard's Lightning. Like that fits into the prowessy theme, right? 2, you can just pay the fucking energy to dome whatever, right? That's a hell of a line of text here. Yeah, Flame of Anor. You can make this thing massive and then fling it and then pay the mana and it doubles your fling. Like this card, there will be times where you draw this card and you're like, wow, I wish I didn't include another 3-drop in my deck. But this card just kills people. It just kills people. It has the right words in the right places, pitches to the right cards, and just kills people. So I imagine this card will see some Gladiator play. Also, let me tell you about this. I talked about Disa earlier. If you are thinking about picking up one of these commander decks and you're a little worried about the price point or whatever, I get that. I wish everything was a lot cheaper. These commander decks fucking rule. They are so good. They are so powerful, but they are not like annoying. These decks rule. If you have been humming and hawing about getting precons, like I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, where like I am cheap. I am cheap. I hate, it's just my nature. It's just my upbringing. I'm cheap. I spend money on things that I want to spend a lot of money on. And I like the things that I like, I'm willing to spend a lot of money on it, right? Like I can be a bit snobby with my taste for things. But I'm cheap. And the idea of paying money for Magic cards in the year of our Lord 2024 makes me sick to my stomach, fam. But I was looking at Street Fighter 6, and I have like almost 300 hours in Street Fighter 6. And I remember buying that game, admittedly, Loading Ready Run paid for it, but I remember buying that game at like $80 for a game. Jesus Christ. Video games cost $80? And I'm like, that's that's 300 hours of gameplay, and some of that enjoyable. And I was like, I wish they were cheaper, but if you spend like $50, or I think these are like $80 Canadian, like if you spend money on this commander deck, like you just have this deck forever. These decks rule. They hashtag non-spawn, but these decks are like cracked. They're so fun. They're so good. This one in particular, I had a blast. Coming to an EDSC near you. This card's bad. This card's sad. Faithful Watchdog. White and a green for a 0/0 vigilance dog. Enters the battlefield with 3/1/1 counters on it. It's going in my green-white little kid, green-white idiots deck. It's going in green-white counters. Vigilance on a 2-mana 3/3 that has combination, like that has synergies with counters. This card is kind of fucked up. Like, this is a card that can take over the board really quickly and just, really scary card. It's just a role player, but you're going to die to this card. Don't worry. Don't worry, everybody. You're going to die to this card. We talked about all these cards. We talked about all of these cards. We talked about all these cards. Here's another Persist card coming to Arena. We don't have a lot of these, but it's nice to get every single version that we can. Obstinate Gargoyle. 1 white and a black for a 2/2 Gargoyle artifact creature. As it has flying as long as it's modified, and has persist. So when it dies, if it has no -1/-1 counters on it, comes back to play with a -1/-1 counter on it. Very funny. This is kind of a cheeky, like, Modern Horizons kind of tip. But yeah, it's just another persist creature. Wait, there's no Raisins for Life. You must be looking. There's like a special commander like product, like, or collector's edition version of these decks. I refuse to believe that these decks by themselves. Yeah, hold on. These decks aren't cheap, but they're $75. Yeah, they're like, you could buy the whole set for $300, which is, to be clear, too much fucking money. These are pre-cons. Not the Eldrazi one. No, you buy the group. You buy the group. Not to mention, this is from, and so like this is probably going to be a bit more expensive than some of the other ones. But yeah, I'm not saying they're not like I'm not saying you're going to pick them up and be like, well, that was $0. But like legitimately, I when playing with these cards, I got the feeling of like, oh, I just want to own this deck and just keep it as is. And like, If they add a new Lurgoyf, then I'm adding the Lurgoyf here. You know? We talked about all these cards. They're all pretty cool and good. Knowing about all these cards. Not into this. I mean, it's a 2-mana 2/2 flyer, but I don't think it's very good. This one's a very weird one. Eldrazi Turtle. Oh, I like this one. Sneaky Snacker. Blue and a black for a 2/1 fairy rogue with flying that says when you draw your third card in a turn, return Sneaky Snacker from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Drawing a third card in a turn is not impossible. This card itself does not really facilitate doing that. Like the Tameo obviously making clues helps out. There are some goofy things that you could do with this card. I think I like it. Like the fact that it's just a 2-mana 2-power flyer with two somewhat relevant creature types, right? In the decks that are going to want to play cheap evasive flyers is kind of nice. And then if it dies, cast your Brainstorm, get it back. You know, just like you probably have some other looters or some Curious Obsessions. Like this card just needs to come back once and then it does, you know, it gets the job done, right? It gets the job done. You want to tap your Bizarra Baghdad to get this back? Hell yeah. We comboed with Skull Clamp. Finally, we figured it out. We finally figured out a way to combo with Bizarra Baghdad and Skull Clamp. I mean, I'd try this card out in the Bug Dredge build. Yeah, I'd try this out in Bug Dredge. Doesn't Bizarre not work? Draw the discard? Oh, no, I mean, it's in the graveyard. Like, we're not tapping the Bizarra Baghdad to then, like, discard it to the Bizarre. Yeah, you upkeep your Bizarre. I mean, public service announcement, you should be upkeeping your Bizarre in the first place. That's the way you do it. You upkeep the Bizarre. As the premier Bizarra Baghdad pilot in the format. These we've talked about, or they're not great. Talked about it, great. Any other cool colorless cards? There's like a cycle of these cards that when you cycle when you cycle them, you get to make a spawn token or whatever. Kind of cool. Kind of cool. Eldrazi Trilobite. Yo, I might actually consider playing this in that like Simic Eldrazi big mana ramp deck. Like making an 0/1 that blocks and draws a card, or being able to like get a Lotus Petal and draw a card is kind of nice. Yeah. The Overload instant is neat. Overload instant. Overload it. What? Oh, the colorless one? Yeah, where the hell is that card? No. We've already talked about all these, right? Yeah. No. Yeah, there's the other one, the Warped Tusker. This one, this one's just a 6/8 reach, but it has the same kind of like effect on it. Also, it's a Tusker. Yeah, get it? It's kind of like a Crowsand Tusker. Wait, Overload. Oh, is that the Commander one? Also, this is technically an Eldrazi Razor. I think this card was out before. We've talked about these artifacts. Urza's Incubator is back for some reason. But it's not worth it. Oh, here we go. Hell yeah. Arena of Glory. This is the red version of the cycle. It's a land, comes to play tapped unless you control a mountain. Taps at a red, pay a red, tap, exert Arena of Glory, add double red. If that mana is spent to cast a creature spell, it gains haste until end of turn. Busted. This card is so good. Auto include in your red X decks. Low cost of inclusion, real easy to set up. The fact that you can like pay this, add the red, and then use it on multiple creatures too. Jesus Christ. That's so good. That is so strong. Yeah. Pretty crack magic card. The green one's really good because it copies like Dark Depths and stuff. Yeah. I mean, they're all very good. There's a cycle of lands here. They all tapped out of colorless. They all cycle for for 3 colors here. Wouldn't say busted. The green one, yeah, I don't know if the green was busted. Honestly, I think this one is the best one of the bunch. The red one. Like, this just kills people. Yeah, all these, they tap for a colorless mana, and then you can tap and sack them to tutor for a basic of that cycle, and then they have cycling. I imagine some number of these will show up. Probably the green ones, the ones that can pop up in like lands decks that give a hoot about, give a hoot about putting lands in their graveyard, finding more lands, double landfall. Being able to tap for a colorless is also not nothing in some of these decks. So I guess don't count them out entirely, but they're not like, it's a common land cycle. So what are you going to do? They're not, don't ask for too much from your common land cycle. And I believe that is, oh, this is such a good name, by the way. Seething Landscape. Oh, perfect name. Just an incredible name on a Magic card. I mean, I know that they're all blank landscape, but Seething Landscape is so nice. The Mirari watermark is the set symbol from Odyssey. Oh, this is a new, yeah, this is a reprint rather. Nesting Grounds, tapped out of colorless, pay 1 tap, move a counter from one target permanent you control onto another target permanent, use it only as a sorcery. Could see play in a 2-color counters deck. You could also maybe play this in like some goofy artifact combo deck with like Magistrate Scepter and whatnot. But yeah, it's worth mentioning. Again, colorless land. You get some benefit from this. If you're like a 1-color or 2-color deck that cares about counters, then it can do something. The full art lands, I like them. I mean, I think the basic lands in the set are very pretty. Like, look at these plains. Holy shit. This plane, this is so gorgeous. Oh my god. This is beautiful. Obviously, the like Vulcan Baga plains over here is pretty nice too. These mountains are kind of cracked. Oh, this island. Oh, this island. Ooh. Holy smokes. Yeah, the forests look good. What are we missing? The forest looking good. The island's looking good. The mountains looking pretty solid. This is good. You got the Kamigawa mountain right here. And then you have this like looming kind of castle. Plains. Where are the swamps at? I mean, they're nice, but they're not. I mean, you saw the other ones in the cycle. They're whew. All right. Do I know if there are full art in the precons for the lands? Not in the normal precons, no. The full arts are kind of nice. I have a couple of the foil full arts that are pretty spectacular. I'll show off one to chat. Spoiler alert! Island in the precon, or islands are in the set. Have they updated this? I only want to look at new cards. Oh, this is new to the gallery, not new Magic cards, right? All right, I'm going to talk about some of these cards, if they're relevant for Canadian Highlander from the Commander product. There's not a lot. This Angel's kind of cool, but it's not very good. I think there's nothing in the energy deck that I'm excited for. Copy Land is kind of neat. 2 and a blue for an enchantment. ETBs as a copy of any land in play. The unfortunate part is that a lot of the really powerful utility lands, especially in decks that are going to play cards like this, happen to be legendary. Great line of text. Copy land. You may have copy land enter the battlefield as a copy of any land. Just incredible stuff here. But yeah, it's like you want to play this kind of card and have it copy, you know, Tolarian Academy, Caracas, Sarah's Sanctum, Hall of Heliod's Generosity, the symbol of his church, whatever, that kind of thing. It can copy an Urza Saga, which is cool. Copying Dark Depths does not do what you want it to do, unfortunately. Copying Field of the Dead's kind of hot, but like copying Strip or Wasteland is kind of funny. Yeah. It's worth knowing this card exists, but I can't really think of anything that where any place I'd want to play it, you know. No. Somebody asked about this whatchamacallit, the Hourglass. The Hourglass is kind of cute. 3 mana artifact, tap to add a white, put a time counter on it. Tap X, remove X time counters from it, and exile the Hourglass of the Lost. You return each non-land permanent with mana value X from your graveyard to play. It's not X or less. It's a bit expensive. It's a bit slow. I don't think this card is really going to see play. It's a powerful effect for sure if you can like slowly grind your way up, but it's a hard effect to justify in a format where your opponents are just trying to kill you at all times. Yeah, the non-land obviously kind of makes it a bit of a poop soup. This card's kind of neat. It's a new Moonfolk. 1 and a blue for a 1/3 Moonfolk wizard with flying. Tap, return a land you control to your hand, draw a card, and then you discard a card unless that land has a non-basic land type. I think this card may actually see some play. I could see playing this card. It's a little awkward early on, but it has a pretty good like stat line. And then returning Mystic Sanctuary over and over again is kind of cracked, right? Mystic Sanctuary, put Ancestral Recall or Time Walk on top of my deck. Tap, return Mystic Sanctuary to my hand, cast Time Walk, rinse and repeat. Like, you get this card can loop with Time Walk and Mystic Sanctuary. Not that it needs that much help, but also just like resetting Urza Sagas is kind of nice. Tap Tolarian Academy, tap the Sage, return Tolarian Academy to your hand, play it, tap it again. Like there are play patterns with this card that are just not real Magic. Like they just do some fucked up stuff. Plus it's a Moonfolk. So I'm inclined to give more benefits to Moonfolk because, well, they're my babies. I do like that. This Moonfolk is too good to actually go in my Moonfolk EDH deck. Yeah, you're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong. What is this one again? Deals damage to a player. Player X on the top and casts this. Nope. This card's pretty neat. Mutated Cultist. 2 and a black for a 1/3 Eldrazi Horror with Devoid. When you cast the spell, remove all counters from up to 1 target permanent or opponent. The next spell you cast this turn costs 1 less to cast. For each counter removed this way and has Death Touch. This is another way of removing all these counters off Dark Depths. It's or just killing an opponent's Planeswalker. 3 mana 1/3 Death Toucher that kills an opponent's Planeswalker. Gets rid of your Dark Depths. The colorless mana is not nothing, but that's not really why we're playing this card. But it will for sure pop up. Yeah, this card's great. Even just like mucking, like resetting your Saga, I guess is kind of nice. Huh? Yeah, it's this card's very good. Very good. I'm gonna try it out in Golgari Depths for sure. Oh, they haven't had the Lurgoyf cards. That's fine. I'll talk to you about the Lurgoyfs. Overclocked Electromancer. Nope. Is this card even in a commander deck? What commander deck is Siege Gang Lieutenant in? I mean, it could be, it's probably in the energy deck if it's in any of them. This is in the Jund deck? I do not remember this card in the Jund deck. Spoiler alert, I played the Jund deck. I guess it sacrifices creatures. That's kind of neat. This Myriad card's probably not worth it. This Desert Desert Warfare card. Oh, it says, oh, I see. Well, I'm not gonna read. What are you, nuts? Rampant Fragantua. 2 and a green for a 3/3 frog with trample. Rampant Fragantua gets +10/+10 for each player who has lost the game. And whenever Rampant Fragantua deals combat damage to a player, you may mill that many cards and put any number of lands from among them onto the battlefield tapped. So obviously in 1v1, this is just a 3-mana 3/3 trampler that has a pretty powerful ability, honestly. Unfortunately, there's just the density of like 3-drops in the lands deck is so high already that it's hard to justify this unless we were playing like mono green lands with every mana dork and like we're just trying to cheat. Like we're trying to go like turn 1 mana dork, turn 2 Tireless Tracker, Provisioner, Courser of Crufix, this thing, Eris from Commander Legends Baldur's Gate, like a bunch of these kind of cards. Yeah. In a best of 5, this thing gets huge. This card's kind of funny. Cute little Skullwinder art. Bloodbraid Challenger. 3 red and a green for a 4/3 haste cascade that has escape for 3 red and a green and exiling 3 cards from your graveyard. This is expensive. It's very expensive. But I think this card is going to see some Canlander play. Is it the correct thing to play at your top end? Maybe not. But this card does like fucking kill people and casts a lot of stuff. That escape cost, obviously the mana is significant, but the escape cost here for only 3 other cards, that's not a big ask. Like you could be casting this card every single turn for the rest of the game and effectively double spelling, which I think is enough to make me consider like playing this card in like a Gruul Monsters strategy or like Jund Monsters, like bigger mana kind of stuff. Obviously, this card is a slam dunk in Hypergenesis or in 5-color Cascade stacks. I'll get to the Goyfs. The Goyfs are not in the card image gallery, but I have them because they've been officially previewed. So we can talk about the Goyfs. Right? The Goyfs have been officially previewed. I mean, it doesn't matter. I could just talk about them anyways. We talked about all these cards. They don't really do anything. This deck is so cool, by the way. I kind of want to get a copy of this deck as well. These precons fucking rule. They are some of the most fun. I think they might be the most interesting precons that we've ever received. On German Twitter with 5K followers. Okay, you didn't need to throw shade at them there. Sphinx of the Revelation. 3 white and a blue. I mean, look. If the ambassador program has taught us anything, is that you don't need to be popular to Sphinx of the Revelation, 3 white and a blue for a 4/5 artifact creature Sphinx with flying and lifelink. And whenever you gain life, you get that much energy. You can pay X blue, tap, pay X energy, draw X cards. I love Sphinx's Revelation. I love drawing extra cards. I don't love how this is formatted, and it's a bit too slow. Sorry, I had a hangnail. Yeah, this card's great. Wait, no, it's not. I love this card, but it's not playable. That's what I wanted to say. I love it, but it's not good. Most of these Eldrazi suck, but, you know, we could talk about them. Eldrazi Confluence, 2 and then 2 colorless, instant. Choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Target creature gets +3, -3. Exile target non-land permanent, then return to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control, or make a Scion token. This mana cost is so fucking awkward. It's just really awkward to cast. Where are we playing this? It's expensive. I'm not about it. I'm not about it. Although it could kill somebody. Now, this card is genuinely kind of interesting. Eldritch Immunity. 1 colorless for an instant, a kindred instant. Eldrazi. I know there's soul don't soul mana explain me. Who do you think the guy that first went Ancient Tomb mana is? That's me. I'm that guy. You're not that guy, pal. I'm that guy. Surge? Nuh-uh. Nope. This has Overload for 4 and a colorless. This is kind of interesting. Being able to just I'm inclined to say that this is a powerful Magic card, but finding a spot to include this is a little tough. Like, it's nice having just like a 1 mana, like, protect your thing. But if you're playing this, you're probably going to be needing to play this in either a like a medium red deck or a like Death and Taxes style deck, where it kind of feels like a weird Brave the Elements sort of play pattern. I just don't know why you would need to play this. That's the thing. I'm not super inclined to play this in like medium brown or like battle bots or whatever, because that deck doesn't really need this type of effect. Those decks push damage by having just flyers, or well, they just attack with 8/8s over and over and over again. So there are spots that you can get damage through, or like protecting your things. Like, this is not going to save your board from the ways that people are going to blow up your board, basically. Yeah. But if you want it as a cheap utility card in like mono green, mono red, mono white, basically, then you have access to it, which is kind of nice. This card has incredible art. I don't think it's very good. Inversion Behemoth, 2 and 2 colorless for a 2/9. Beginning of combat on your turn, you switch the power and toughness of any number of target creatures until end of turn. It's kind of funny. Each player chooses a color, exile each permanent, unless it's, yeah, no, that's fine. Spawn Bird Protector, attempt the 1. No, I'm good. No, I'm good. No, I'm good. Just have to double check for all these big donkey Eldrazi creatures. Oh, this was sick. Look, they fixed it. They fixed it. Pay 8 energy instead of pay energy. Thank God they fixed it. That's it. I feel like there's another card. I mean, the lands are kind of cracked. Whether or not they're going to have them here is a different story. This card's kind of funny. It's a land, tap, pay, Horizon of Progress. Tap, pay 1 life, add 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce. Pay 3, tap, put a land from your hand into play tapped. Pay 1, tap, sack it, draw a card. This is like a City of Brass Reflecting Pool hybrid that is also a terrain generator, that is also a way of cashing in like a Horizon land, which is why it's called Horizon of Progress. I might try it in the lands decks, like the 5-color Thoracle kind of land style decks, because being able to like just cheat out more lands is sometimes all you want to do. Being able to obviously just replace itself and draw a card is pretty nice. And then in a deck that's already like 4 or 5 colors, sometimes having Horizon land is not what you need. You kind of want to be able to like add some weird like white mana or like, you know, you got some weird spells you're trying to cast. So this is on my watch list, basically. Lazatep Quarry, land that taps for a colorless, it's a desert, taps for a colorless, tap, sack a creature, add 1 mana of any color, and then 2 tap, sack a desert, or an X, I guess X is important. X 2 tap, sack a desert. You exile target creature card with mana value X from your graveyard, and you create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie token, used only as a sorcery. Honestly, in medium red, I don't hate this card. Like, I really don't mind this card. You kind of want a number of colorless lands. Maybe you're just better off playing the ones that are going to disrupt their mana base. But like having this on a stick, it's very expensive for sure. But like your deck is already filled with haste cards. Like paying 5 mana or a 6 or 5 mana to just like get back a 4/4 haste creature is pretty hot. Yeah. And again, it's just a land, just a colorless land. This one's kind of funny. It doesn't really do anything for our format, but it's every non-basic land type. Chon chon. This card I've been thinking about for a while, and this upcoming card too, I guess. Sunken Palace. Enters battlefield tapped. Taps at a blue, and then you can pay 1 in a blue, tap, exile 7 cards from your graveyard. Add blue. When you spend this mana to cast a spell or activate ability, copy it, and you can choose new targets. This is so many cards, so I don't think this card is going to see any play. Because 7 cards is a lot of fucking cards, but that is a powerful ability, and it's also a blue land. So probably too expensive on this end, but kind of hot. Like, obviously, if you get to do the thing, then they're really rolling. But this card is genuinely quite good. Talon Gates of Madara. It's a land, happens to be a gate. When it ETBs, up to 1 target creature phases out. Tapped, add a colorless. Pay 1 tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. And pay 4 colorless, put it from your hand into play. So we have an uncounterable, air quotes, phase out your creature for 4 mana, generic mana. We have an ETB, phase out one of your opponent's creatures. And we have a colorless land for our Eldrazi, but if we need to filter it into colored mana, then we can do so. I believe this card is quite good. I plan on playing this card in monocolored, like medium style decks. I'm going to try this in some lands decks as well. This card is pretty strong. It is pretty strong. It's not Otawara, but it is really fucking annoying and great at keeping you alive. God forbid you pair this with like a sack outlet and like a crucible effect. Like that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. They made a new locust that mills people. That's kind of funny. Cloudpost is not playable in our format. And that's it for the things in that gallery. But again, the deck, the Goyf deck has been spoiled. I'm going to tell you the cards from the Goyf deck that I really like, starting with what I believe is quite possibly the best card from this set. So this is Barrow Goyf. 2 and a black for a Lurgoyf with Death Touch and Lifelink. It's a Tarmogoyf. And it says, when it deals combat damage to a player, you may mill that many cards. And if you do, you put a creature card from among them back into your hand. So this is a 3-mana Tarmogoyf with Lifelink and Death Touch for a single pip of mana. That already is just pretty good because it's a Tarmogoyf with Lifelink. So you just like... think about Tarmogoyf and the complaints about Tarmogoyf being that it is just a block of stats, right? And that's true. It's just a block of stats. However, this is now a block of stats that makes combat even more miserable, right? Like it's so much life you're going to gain off this card. It blocks super well. It dodges a lot of red-based spot removal. And then if it hits them, you just get to fill your graveyard, potentially drawing a card or just, you know, filling your graveyard to make it bigger. Like, this card is cracked. I think this card is genuinely kind of cracked. It's messed up. It's a big donkey, but it is just such a big donkey. I love this card. Yeah. This is like close to my pick for the best card in the set. I don't know if it's entirely there. It's hard to talk about that through the with Tameo and whatnot in the discussion, but this card, it's just so straightforward and very good at what it wants to do. What is, please refresh my memory. What's the button to return the window I just closed? What's the shortcut? Old? I'm 32. I just don't use shortcuts that often. I'm going to save this one for last. Polygoyf. 2 and a green for a Tarmogoyf with Trample and Myriad. This one is very straightforward. And out of all the Goyfs I'm going to talk about right now, may not show up because, well, it's just a Tarmogoyf. Myriad doesn't really do anything in 1v1, so this is just Tarmogoyf with Trample. I kind of like Tarmogoyf with Trample. That's another issue with Tarmogoyf. It doesn't have Trample. This is a Tarmogoyf with Trample. If your deck wants a Tarmogoyf with Trample, you can play a Tarmogoyf with Trample. And while I don't think this is the best card in the set, I do think this card is a top 10 card of the set and probably one of my favorite cards of the set. Pyrogoyf. Pyrogoyf is 3 and a red for Tarmogoyf. When Pyrogoyf or another Lorgoyf enters the battlefield under your control, that creature deals damage equal to its power to any target. This is a Flame Tongue Kavu Tarmogoyf that hits your opponents, that hits their planeswalkers. Like, if the most stereotypical Tarmogoyf stat line is 4/5, this card hits the table, kills their Minskin Boo, and then blocks the Boo token and survives. This card hits the table and goes upstairs for 4 or for 5 or whatever. You play this card, kill one of their creatures, and it hangs out, and you draw your actual Tarmogoyf or your Nethergoyf or your Barrowgoyf, and then you play it, and then you get to dome something else. Like, I legitimately think that this card makes Jund midrange. I think that this card makes Jund midrange a deck that is just playing like Nethergoyf, Tarmogoyf, this Goyf, Barrowgoyf, and Polygoyf. Like, I'm just playing every Lorgoyf that I can find because, well, all the new ones are cracked, but also this is just wild. This is so good. This card is it's messed up. This card is messed up. It is going to kill people dead. It's going to kill people dead. Flametongue Kavu in shambles. Which is kind of funny because Flametongue Kavu was actually getting a lot better. Like, Flametongue was something that was like worth playing in Canlander right now. And it got a glow up. So I would recommend playing this card. The first cards that I'm going to pre-order are going to be Barrowgoyf, Pyrogoyf, and Polygoyf. Big bet. There are some other cards in this deck. None of them are going to be Canlander playable, but I mean, this card's kind of funny. Sawhorn Nemesis, 3 and a red for a 2/4. When it comes to play, you choose a player, and if a source would deal damage to the player or a permanent they control, that much is doubled instead. Little awkward stat line for, a 4-drop. It's funny that Saskia is more appealing than this card, but it's a damage doubler. Yeah, these aren't coming to Arena. All right. That is, I believe with that is the entirety of Modern Horizons 3, and the conclusion of the set review. My closing thoughts are this set, as far as the cards we are getting, feels perfect. Like, this is the power level that I'm looking for. The cards are interesting, powerful. They are particular, meaning that, you know, you're not just putting them in every single deck. Some of them you might, but like, I don't know. The idea of like putting a Johnny in every single white X creature deck is likely just not the correct thing to do, but also not as bad as Solitude or Fury popping into every deck. Like, it's hard to get mad about cards like Galvanic Discharge being you know, like, oh, this card is like one of the best cards in the set and it's just cheap, it's flexible, it gets the job done. But like, you're not mad about Galvanic Discharge existing, right? I think that's kind of neat. I have some issues with this set as a like entity, you know, like the vibes are a little off. I've described this before, where I feel like this set doesn't commit enough in certain places, and then other places it goes really hard, and you can certainly feel the effects, not just on like overall power level, but on the style of cards and the sub themes included in the set being a push, like being included so heavily because this is coming to Arena, right? Which is not great, and for me at least, and for Canadian Highlander. Great for Gladiator. Obviously, the fact that Gladiator gets access to these is pretty hot. Except these fuckers, I am not excited to play Fury in Gladiator or to run into Fury. But like, Gladiator is now at a power level where it is truly like Canlander on Arena. Like, with the launch of this set and the new fetch lands that we got, like, we are now very close to just, it's Canlander but without power 9, or like, it's like legacy Canlander sort of thing, which I think is pretty cool. And then Channel just randomly happens to be there. Yeah, so I'm going to call it there because I have to go and record another episode of Sheevan Wheeler Love Magic. And unfortunately, that episode is Prophecy. So please send your thoughts and prayers and love towards me. And please. All right. Ristic Cave. What about Ristic Cave? Oh, in Prophecy, right? Yeah. All right, let me drop you kids off somewhere. And yeah, just a heads up on the YouTube. I guess I should mention this. I should plug this on the YouTube channel. Part 1 and part 2 of the set review are now alive. They're now live and on the channel. Part 3 for this one is going to be uploaded tomorrow morning. So all 3 of these are going to be available. Tomorrow is the Modern Horizons 3 PPR that you can check out starting at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Tune into that. It'll be fun. For some reason, they scheduled myself versus Adam as one of the rounds, which there's going to be a lot of hooting and or hollering over there. So you can tune into that. What else do I have to tell you? Oh, Google did some changes to podcasts and whatnot. And so Sheevan Wheeler Love Magic is now finally going to also be uploaded on YouTube. They are going to be uploaded under my YouTube channel here, B Wheeler MTG. And so if you are subscribed to the channel and you start seeing a bunch of uploads for Sheevan Wheeler Love Magic, that's why. It's all coming there. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, you should go subscribe in the first place. And then also, I'm not going to be streaming over the weekend. I am away for some secret filming that will come to light eventually. I mean, probably sooner rather than later. But yeah, there's all that. The schedule is going to be updated and all that stuff can be also found on the Discord. Let me drop you kids off somewhere. Is Lermtug going? Lermtug is not going. Why is No, Lermtug is going. Here, go over to Lermtug because I think they just started. Lerm Tug is going. Go watch Lerm Tug, and I will see y'all tomorrow. This is new. It's not on it's not on YouTube. So go watch this. I'll see y'all at the PPR. Okay, bye.